Due to the graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
Introducing from Atlantic City, New Jersey, weighing in at 210 pounds, your Italian hero, Joey Image!
Hey everybody, how the hell are you? Joey Image here, that Image guy, your favorite, I don't know, your favorite dude. I don't know what else. Your favorite, everything that has a favorite. So how about that? That's good enough, right? How the hell are you? Welcome to episode 35 of the podcast. It is a beautiful March day right now. I don't know how the hell it's been for wherever you guys are, wherever you're listening to this, but holy Christmas, the weather's been gorgeous this week. It's been it was 80 today, for Christ's sake. I think it's, I don't know if it's today's Wednesday maybe. It was 80 degrees earlier today, which is amazing. Like, today was the first day where I drove around with a short sleeve shirt on and my windows open and I was comfortable. And, like, something about that just kind of brings me back to, like, when I was a kid and didn't have a care in the world. All I wanted to do was go hang out with my buddies and get drunk when I was, 17, 18, 19, whatever. And that's basically how it was. I would just drive around in my car, pick up my buddies, we'd go hang out, or we'd go drive around somewhere, just aimlessly driving, just to kind of be with each other and hang out and bullshit and talk and drink and shit like that, and that's all we did. And, like, just something about this kind of weather and the first day of this season each year where you can put your windows all the way down, drive around with a short sleeve shirt on and not be too cold or chilly, or you're perfectly comfortable. There's just something about that first day that brings me back to that youth, like that feeling of freedom that I had back then. No fucking bills and no, no, me and my buddies, like, none of us had, like, girlfriends. I guess we were pretty much losers, probably still losers today, I don't know. But, back then it was just, like, such a feeling of, like, freedom. Like, man, we had nothing tying us down. We had, like, shitty jobs. Like, I worked at, like, the Harmon in the town I lived in and, like, the video store. And I worked in both of them. And I would, like, alter the schedule. So I ended up working 7 days a week. But, I mean, when I was 18, 19, I graduated high school when I had turned 18, like, 3 weeks earlier. So for those 2 or 3 summers, 18, 19, 20, actually till I was probably 21, 22, I hung out with, like, the same group of guys. And so my jobs, I would, like, go from, I don't know, whatever time we opened the store, I guess 10 o'clock, so I would go in around 9, and it was like 10 to, like, 4 or 5 till whoever else got there, and then it wasn't that long at all, and then I would do the following job the next day, the other job the next day, so I'd switch off, so I was always off at night, like, it's all we wanted to do was just hang out and not really care about nothing, and it was awesome. So, whatever, the first day of the warm weather kind of brings me back to that feeling of freedom, and it's cool. So, how the hell are all you guys? How's everyone doing? What's going on? How's your week been? How's your weather been? Let me know. Hit me up in Twitter, at twitter.com/JoeyImage. Check me out. Hit me up there. Let me know what's going on. I really don't know what I was going to talk about this week. Nothing, amazing has happened recently or anything like that. Nothing that I haven't talked about already. A lot of people liked my previous episode where I talked about why I was banned from the former Tower Records here in New Jersey. The one that was right by me was the one in Paramus on Route 17, and a lot of people thought that was a pretty funny story. And some people told me, I think it's long enough where now you can't get in any trouble for that. So if you're curious, what happened was I did it last week in the podcast. So you're gonna have to go listen to that. Sorry, but I need if you want to know the whole story in detail, go listen to episode 34 of that Image Guy podcast. Again, like I said, a lot of cool reactions to that one. But this week, I think I'm going to talk about stand-up comedy a little bit. I talked about it on Twitter earlier, and this weekend I'm going to see Gilbert Gottfried for the second time. First time seeing him at NJPAC, which is the New Jersey Performing Arts Center in Newark, New Jersey. I've only been there a few times. I went there with my current girlfriend a couple times. I had never been there before then. But and now that I've seen it, it's a beautiful, beautiful venue. Really looking forward to this weekend's Gilbert Gottfried show there. So the second time I'm seeing him, but the first time I'm seeing him at this venue. So on Twitter, I basically put out a tweet saying, hey, let me know some of your favorite comedians. I'm going to talk about that a little bit on the podcast. So I think what I'm going to do is just kind of run down the list of names I got. Actually, you know what? Before I even look at those, I'm going to talk about some of my favorites, because there's a lot of people that I know on Facebook and Twitter that love stand-up comedy, and there's always constantly some kind of conversation going on surrounding that. I'm friends with a few comics that I think are awesome, and it's always been something that I've wanted to do. Like when I was growing up, obviously everyone loves entertainment, but my two favorite forms of entertainment, and two that I loved as a kid, and two that I've always wanted to have something to do with or be a part of. Number one being professional wrestling, which I just did for 15 years. And number two being stand-up comedy, which is something that I still have yet to do, and I still want to kind of give it a try. I've got probably, 12 or 13 minutes of actual original material, original jokes written, but I don't understand why I don't have the balls to get in front of a crowd and do it. The thing that's odd for me is that I've done a million promos in front of live crowds, in front of thousands of people, and I don't understand what the big deal is. But I think it's the fact that if I'm in front of a crowd at a wrestling show and I'm a quote-unquote good guy or quote-unquote bad guy, I have to get the proper reaction. I have to get a reaction. So it's like, if I'm going out there as a good guy and people boo me, that's fine. Then I'll lean in that direction and I'll give them a reason to boo me. I can adapt to that. If I go out there as a bad guy and they start cheering for me, then I can adapt to that and I can change what I'm saying or change my attitude or my persona in that instance, in that promo, and kind of adapt to the way the crowd's reacting. If I go out there on stage as a comic and they boo me, there's no coming back, because that's it. That's the whole point, is to get them to cheer. They have to laugh, they have to cheer. If you go out there and they boo or they shit on you, they're not having a good time, and that's not the name of the game. And I think probably the biggest difference between the two is the fact that in wrestling I'm playing a character, although it wasn't much different from the real me, but in comedy I'd be actually playing me. I'd be Joey Image. I wouldn't be Joey Image the wrestler, I'd be Joey Image the person. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. I've never done comedy. I've never been trained in it. I've never taken a class. So, this is just how I see it as a spectator. I don't think I know what I don't claim to know what I'm doing like wrestling fans do. Wrestling fans will watch one episode of Raw and suddenly they know how to book the whole show next week, as if they're going to do it better than the people that are actually getting paid to do it as a career. I'm not that ridiculously crazy. I'm just an enormous fan and would love to give it a shot. That's basically it. And I admit that. I admit that I'm not a quote-unquote smart comedy fan. But I want to run down some of my favorite comedians and guys that I just love and think are great. Number one being Artie Lange. Actually, I don't really think I have a top five. I have a top five of all time, but not in any order. Just guys that I enjoy watching, like Artie Lange, George Carlin. I can watch Bill Burr all the time. Jim Brewer's great. Bob Levy's good. This is just a ton. Joe Matarese, Pete Dominic, guys I talked about recently. Louis C.K. is awesome. Louis Black. I've seen Dennis Miller live. I've seen Kevin James live. Stuff like that. So, just there's so many that are so good, and it's really hard to pin down a top 5 or 10 favorites. I could say of all time, one of my top at least 10 is George Carlin. I mean, I grew up in love with George Carlin. My older brother had George Carlin records, so on vinyl. In fact, he still has them. I think they're actually here somewhere in my house. But George Carlin was a huge influence on me wanting to get into stand-up comedy. And I just think, I always thought, actually still do, that he is one of the best. Even though he's since passed away, I still think that he is one of the best. And it's because, a lot of the stuff that he said wasn't just made-up jokes. A lot of it was actual, true stuff, in the news or things that are going around in the world at the time or whatever. I said things that are going around in the world. I meant to say things that are going on around the world. Jesus. Things that are going on around the world. Sorry for that. But I don't feel like editing this, so I'm just going to correct myself on the fly. So he did a lot of topical humor, and a lot of guys just do a lot of like written jokes or written scenarios or situations or whatever, and that's cool too. I don't care. I love all of it, man. If you're a comedian and you're making me laugh, you're worth my money. That's the bottom line. And I always go to coming from the world of professional wrestling, actually coming from the world of independent pro wrestling, I go see what I call indie comics a lot. So not necessarily famous guys that are kind of no names, I guess, that are not, I shouldn't say no names, guys that are not as prominently featured all over the place like other guys are. Like I'll go see Joe Matarese, and I know a lot of people know who he is. He's a very, very popular guy, very popular comedian. And then there'll be like, I don't know, Bill Jones will be on the show, and people go, who the hell is he? And I'm like, well, I don't know him, but you know what? He's an indie guy. He's an indie comic. He's just kind of getting his footing, kind of learning his pace to see how things go and his timing and his delivery and stuff like that. So it's almost like practice, but it's in front of a live crowd. That's why I call them indie guys. But that's not an insult at all, by the way. So I go see a lot of them because I think, hey, one day this guy could be on, Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show or on Leno or whatever show's going on at the time, Conan, whatever. So I think it's cool to kind of say, hey, 20 years ago, I saw that guy when he was a nobody. John Caponera, there's a guy that I saw on TV literally 20 years ago on MTV who I thought was hilarious and never saw him again and never saw another special from him or anything. And then randomly, about a year ago, he popped up. I saw it, his name popped up on my Twitter. Somebody had retweeted him into my timeline, and I saw it, and I was like, holy shit, John Caponera. So I tweeted him and said, man, I saw you on TV 20 years ago. I still have it on VHS. Some funny stuff. And he followed me, sent me a private message, said, hey, man, can any chance you can send me a copy of that? So I got the VHS that I have him on, ripped it to my hard drive, burned it to a DVD, and mailed it to him. And he sent me a message back a couple weeks later. Said, hey, I just got the DVD. Man, it's so cool that you have this. And I haven't seen this literally since I did it. I never actually saw it on television. I never saw anybody with a tape of it or whatever. I just kind of did it and forgot about it. It's so cool seeing this stuff and blah, blah, blah. So it was really cool. But anyway, that was kind of a story for another show, but there's the story now on the show. I hope you liked it. So that was really creepy and weird and getting close to the mic like that. So another one of my favorites, as I mentioned earlier, is Artie Lange. Now, here's a funny Artie Lange story. A couple years ago, January of 2014, I go to Starland Ballroom to see Artie Lange and Bob Levy perform. If you don't know who Reverend Bob Levy is, he's also from the Howard Stern Show. He's from Opie and Anthony. He's been on Opie and Jim. So he's been around, he's been all over the place. He's a very, very famous guy. Happens to be a very close friend of mine. So January 2014, myself and a friend of mine, we go to Starland Ballroom to see Bob Levy and Artie Lange. Bob Levy calls me and says, hey, show up early. We're going backstage. Or no, you're going backstage. I'm like, oh, great. So we're backstage hanging out. Me, him, Artie Lange is there. Jim Florentine was there. Couple other people. Artie Lange's former fiance, who was like on a 1 to 10, she was like a 28, and so we're back there bullshitting. It's the first time I had met Artie in person, and actually it wasn't the first time; it was the second time. But the first time was years earlier, and he didn't remember me, of course. But we're back there talking, and Artie's like, "So, is this your first time seeing me?" And I go, "Oh no, man! I've already seen you like 6 times." So he looks at me and he goes, why would you pay to see me 6 times? Like, I'm not even that good. And I looked at him right in the eyes and I go, dude, I am an overweight. At the time, I had a larger gut than I do now. I mean, I'm not Jared from Subway now, at least when he was thin. But, there's definitely been some decreasing of my weight. Put it that way to be nice. So he looks at me and he's like, why would you pay to see me? And I go, dude, I'm an overweight Italian guy from New Jersey. I can relate to everything you say. So he looks me up and down and he goes, well, you'll get no argument out of me there. I'm like, man, thanks a lot, bro. It was awesome. But we got to hang out. There's a video of it on my Facebook, just like really quick, like 30-second or 1-minute video of backstage. I didn't know if it was cool to do video, so a buddy of mine that was with me, John, he did some video, but he only did about 30 seconds or a minute, whatever it is, because he wasn't sure if it was okay. But it was so awesome, man. We got to hang out backstage, and then we met those guys, and like I said, I already knew Levy. Him and I are good friends, but we got to meet Artie Lange and Jim Florentine and Artie's fiance, and let me tell you, actually, there's a picture of this on my Facebook also. The catering they had was literally a vegetable platter, like one you would buy at like a supermarket in a little plastic container. You'd buy it for like a party at your office or something. So the shitty little thing. So I'm sitting down by the table and Artie's like, "Oh, you want some of my fine catering? It's, $3 they spent at Walmart," or whatever it was. So it was funny shit. But later that night, we were leaving and we were hanging out backstage. We were talking to like the bouncers or whatever. And me and Levy and my buddy John were hanging out bullshitting. And who walks in but all four Impractical Jokers? So we got to meet those guys and hang out with those guys too, and that was such an awesome night. And at the time, I was huge on the Impractical Jokers TV show. I'm still a fan of it, but I've seen it. I feel like if you've seen the first 1,000 episodes, you've seen the last 8,000. They're essentially all the same games, just rehashed in different locations. And I really don't understand how they can have so many seasons already and be so popular. And there's still people that don't know who they are when they go to certain locations and do stuff. I don't understand. But, not that I'm out of it. I still like it. It's just, I've seen so much of it that I think I've had enough for now. But awesome guys. All four of them really, really great guys. Super cool. I got along mostly with Sal. We talked about wrestling, actually. We have a couple of mutual friends, him and I. He knows a bunch of people from TNA as well as I do. So those were our mutual friends that we talked about, and we exchanged phone numbers, and I was like, "Hey man, you guys ever need somebody in spandex, you let me know." So whatever, we talked for a while, exchanged numbers. It was really cool. So those guys were cool, but that happened because of stand-up comedy, again, because of my love for stand-up. I happened to be at a show with a guy that I happened to be friends with who was on the show that night, and these guys walked in, and they had never met before either. They walked in and met Bob Levy and said, "We're here because we're fans of yours." And Levy was like, "Holy shit, really? Like, you guys know who I am? Like, you're the Impractical Jokers. You guys are awesome." And they're like, "You're Bob fucking Levy, man. You're awesome." So it's really kind of cool seeing like two famous people, at least one group of people and one other guy, kind of geeking off each other because they're both fans of each other and they don't realize that, like, you're more famous than me. No, you're more famous than me. No, you're more famous. Shit like that. It was really cool to kind of see that people at that level and people that are famous like that still kind of get, I don't want to say excited or start or mark out a little bit to other people that are famous, even though they're they're both famous and they're fans of each other. They only know each other from seeing each other on TV or whatever. They don't really know each other. So it's just kind of cool to see that. But anyway, back to my list. Like I said, Artie Lange, Bob Levy, Gilbert Gottfried's another one who I said, as I said earlier, I'm seeing this weekend. Russell Peters, that one I'm kind of new to. I saw Russell Peters stuff on Netflix, I don't know, a year or so ago, and I could not stop laughing. I brought it up to my girlfriend. She had never heard of him either. She watched one of his specials, and she couldn't stop laughing. So we went and saw him the first chance we got at the same venue that we're going to see Gilbert at this weekend, New Jersey Performing Arts Center. And he was amazing, just amazing. And the funny thing is, he's an Indian dude who makes fun of Indians, like makes fun of his parents and their accents and stuff like that. His mother's accent, his father's accent, it's hilarious. So we got tickets to see him again at Levity Live in New York, which is my favorite venue. First of all, because it's 15 minutes from my house, and that makes it awesome. And second of all, it's at a shopping mall, so it's like it's in the Palisade Center Mall, which is a really, really big mall. There's a ton of stores there, and there's big stores too. There's Best Buy and Target, and there used to be like a Sports Authority up there. There's just a lot of stores there, so it's a really, really big mall. And this place is inside, and it's a great location because it's right in the food court where there's a ton of restaurants. It's not even a food court. It's actual full-size restaurants upstairs in this mall. It's awesome. There's a Ferris wheel in the thing, for Christ's sake. So I love going to that venue because I can go with my girlfriend a few hours early. We can walk around and shop for a little while, or we can go get food or whatever. A bunch of the restaurants, all of them actually have bars in there, or you can hit like Target or whatever. So, it's just cool. It makes for a fun night out more than just seeing a show. So I think it's awesome. But if you go on Twitter at Levity Live, it's you can check them out there. There's a lot of cool shows coming up. They always have awesome. They just had D.L. Hughley there. They had Craig Robinson from The Office, who played Daryl, the guy that worked in the warehouse at Dunder Mifflin. So there's a lot of really, really good shows that happen at Levity Live, and I love that place. I've seen a lot of great comedians there, and I'm hoping to see a ton more. So, what else? Who else is there? Joe Matarese you may not have heard of. I talked about him a few episodes ago. Pete Dominic you may not have heard of either, but I've also talked about him as well. Two great guys you got to go check out. Greg Stone, another one. Him and I know each other. I consider him a friend. I think he's a great guy. We talk on Twitter once in a while, and I never actually get to catch him at the shows. I'm always there, and he's always there, and I always see him walking around, and he ends up either emceeing or being the opener, and I just don't get to hang out with him or really talk to him much. But the first night I met him, I made sure I talked to him because he was doing the Ric Flair woo during some of his jokes. And I had a Hogan Andre the Giant shirt on that he pointed out on stage and he liked it. But anyway, who else? Nick DiPaolo is a famous guy. He's been on the Stern Show. He's been on Opie and Anthony. He's got I think he's got his own podcast still. I don't remember the name of it. But he's another guy. He's a Boston comedian, but he comes down here a lot. Another great guy. So that's enough about me. I'm going to actually hit up my my Twitter right now and check out some of the names that people mentioned that I will talk about briefly. I mean, I'm already at almost 23 minutes. Or, I'm sorry, almost 20 minutes. I was hoping to keep this at about 30 minutes this week, so I'm not going to go too crazy. But Eric Paulus mentioned Bill Burr, who I think is hilarious. I've never seen him live, but I've seen all of his Netflix specials. I've been wondering this for a while, but why is the one next Netflix special, I think it's called I'm Sorry You Feel That Way, why is that one in black and white? I'm assuming it's because he produced it himself, so it was cheaper, but it's just always a question that I've had. Airsign mentioned Richard Pryor, George Carlin, D.L. Hughley, and again, Bill Burr. I'm just not a big D.L. Hughley fan. He was just at Levity Live recently. Just not a big D.L. Hughley fan. I don't know why. Just something about him doesn't grab me. I do love Richard Pryor and love George Carlin. Those two are legends. Richard Pryor and George Carlin, I think, kind of set the tone at one point for what stand-up comedy should be. And they were awesome at it, and they were both absolute classic legends. Another one, Jim Brewer, who I also mentioned. Mitch Hedberg. Mitch mentioned Mitch Hedberg. I know Mitch Hedberg's stuff. I'm not super familiar with it. I know Artie Lange is a big Mitch Hedberg fan, so he's talked about it a lot. I've seen some of his stuff, and I like it. He's just not a super huge favorite of mine. I have to give him another chance. I know that he's no longer alive, but I have to kind of give him another chance and listen to some of his stuff and check it out or whatever, because it's been a while since I've heard any of it, and I'm sure I would be a huge fan. It's just I don't think I'm familiar with enough of his work to really make a judgment. Let me see who else. Robin Williams, Billy Crystal, and Ron White. Robin Williams was a absolute classic, another legend. His passing was so immensely sad, and I don't know, I feel horrible for his family. But as far as stand-up comedians, he was one of the best. And he was a hairy guy, which is funny because he made fun of that a lot. Who else? Let's see. If you go to, I guess it's on Netflix, right? That Broadway show that Rob Williams did, the live, was it Weapons of Mass Destruction or something like that? Or Weapons of something or other? I don't remember what he called it, but I thought it was Weapons of Mass Destruction or something he called it. But that's a great show. I think that was the live at Broadway one. Or there may be two different shows. What else? Billy Crystal. Billy Crystal was awesome. You look marvelous. He was that guy. Ron White. Ron White's okay. Out of that whole blue collar deal, I think he's probably my favorite. But was never really a giant fan. Like that Tater Salad special, that was really good. But as far as just overall, that's really the only work of his that I liked. What do we got next? Brandon M. says, I've only seen Dane Cook live, but the king of stand-up comics, hands down, is George Carlin. I agree with the George Carlin thing, although I'm not a Dane Cook fan. I have an ex-girlfriend who is in love with Dane Cook, thinks he's the funniest guy in the world. I don't understand the thinking there. I just don't understand it. I literally we did a marathon one night where I said, you know what? I will open my mind and I will watch Dane Cook. I'll watch everything he's ever done, and I'll make I'll form a valid opinion as to whether or not I like him. Because when I first met her, I didn't like him after only seeing one special, which to me was a big deal because it was like something he did. I think it was on HBO. It was like an hour show, and I was like, you know what? If this guy didn't make me laugh in an hour, then he's not. I just don't like him. But we took, I think there was like 4 or 5 videos he did, and we watched them back to back. I literally didn't crack a smile Literally the entire, and this is no bullshit. I literally didn't crack a smile the entire time. I just don't give a shit about Dane Cook. I don't think he's funny. I think he's there to, like, you know, make chicks oogle over him or whatever, but he's not good. I mean, he's not good looking. I don't give a shit if he's good looking, but he's just not funny to me. I don't know. I don't see it. Again, Mitch Hedberg, of course, George Carlin. Oh, Sam Kinison. There's an amazing, a great name. PJ Roberts mentioned Sam Kinison. Oh! He was one of the best, man. I wish he didn't die. He was so goddamn funny, man. He was great on Stern. Oh, he was great. Rodney Dangerfield and Tim Allen, the other two that PJ mentioned, and George Carlin. Rodney Dangerfield was good, but I think I preferred him in movies more than in stand-up. And Tim Allen, I never actually saw his stand-up. I've obviously seen, Home Improvement and the Santa Claus and stuff like that, but I've never actually seen him do stand-up. So I may have to check that out. What else? Jim Brewer, again. That's all I got for Twitter entries, or Twitter mentions, I should say. But a lot of George Carlin a lot of people naming George Carlin, which I was really cool to see. A couple of Bill Burrs, a couple of George Carlins. I like a lot of that, man. I mean, especially, like I said, George Carlin to me at one point set the bar, man. And I don't think there's been, I mean, Dennis Miller is similar in that he does topical, real life stuff. And I've seen Dennis Miller live, but I guess this is going to make me sound bad, but Dennis Miller, I think, is too smart for me. Like, I just don't get a lot of it. Like, his comedy is just too, like, he did some stupid, like, fart jokes or whatever, and I got that, but that's because they're idiot bathroom humor or whatever. But, like, he actually did, like, some intellectual humor. I saw him at Borgata in, like, 2007. And people laughed through the whole show. I just didn't get most of it. I'm just not smart enough for a Dennis Miller show. Although now that I'm older, I would love to, it's almost 10 years later. I would love to give it another shot. Although I can't promise I'll be any smarter to his comedy than I was back then. But Dennis Miller is someone that I wanted to see live just because, as I mentioned with music groups a few episodes ago, there's some people that are just like legends and just, very well-known people that I would just like to see perform, whether I'm fans of them or not. And some of you may remember when I talked about this Billy Joel show I went to and the Eagles show that I went to, and I said that even Elton John that I haven't seen yet, but I said all three of those are acts that I have never necessarily been a giant fan of, but because of their stature in their respective industries and who they are, I would love to go see them live. And again, I saw Billy Joel and I saw the Eagles. So Dennis Miller was one of those guys that, because I knew who he was and because of his stature and him just being on so much stuff. I mean, he had the Dennis Miller show for a while. He's been in movies and stuff. I always thought, like, wow, that guy would be really cool to see live. So I went to see him live. There's a lot of guys that are like that, that I would love to go see live, and just, for one reason or another, I just haven't had the opportunity. But as I said, this weekend I will be going to my second Gilbert Gottfried show, who was the funniest guy in the world. One of them, at least. If you ever get a chance to buy his DVD, Dirty Jokes, absolutely do it. Definitely don't turn that down because it's hilarious. Guys, I'm going to take off for now, I think, until next week. This has been a little bit longer than I expected. I hope it's not been too boring for you. You can always tweet me at Joey Image and tell me how bored you are. I appreciate everyone listening and downloading and subscribing, those of you that actually do. And I appreciate those that actually listen and respond to me with feedback that proves they're listening. Like, for example, the people that said that the story about Tower Records was pretty funny. I know that they heard it because they knew that it was mentioned. Because it's just respectful. So I appreciate it, and thank you guys very much. Anthony Menegoni's one of them. He always mentions it every week when he listens to it. Dave DeFranco, just a bunch of guys that I always talk to on Twitter and via Twitter or Facebook, whatever, that always mention that they heard something and liked something I said or agreed with something I said or whatever. So I really appreciate that. So again, I'm going to let you all go. Please hit me up on Twitter at Joey Image. Please grab me on Facebook and send me a message or say hello. Facebook.com/RealJoeyImage. Check me out every Tuesday night on Grumpy Cast with Daryl the Trek Nerd and J Hammond C. Also, check me out ProWrestlingTees.com/JoeyImage. Once again, thank you guys all for listening. I'll see you in the next episode.
This has been a presentation of the Three Ropes Media Network. For more, find us on Facebook at facebook.com/3ropes or visit us at threeropes.com.
King Firehawk from 1640 PWPR. And we are making waves, kicking ass, and taking names later. That's right. 1640 PWPR is growing and growing and growing. Got so many shows now in the family, yet we have room for more. Are you out there in podcast land, talented and ready to be seen and heard? Or are you an upstart looking for just your chance? Well, now you got a chance. Tweet us at 1640 PWPR or come on down to Facebook, facebook.com/1640 PWPR. Let us know what you're about, what you got going on, and maybe you, yes you, can end up on the home of pro wrestling podcast, radio, and more, 1640 PWPR.